Hi, I'm Disha Kanan and today I'm going to be reading Loving Pod and Grumpy Pod in the Puppy Surprise, written by Sonia Mehta and illustrated by Team Pod Squad. Grumpy Pod was feeling sad. He had no friends. He looked out of his window and saw everyone having fun together. But you see, Grumpy Pod had no friends because he was so grumpy. If anyone tried to talk to Grumpy Pod, he would snap at them. When Geeky Pod tried to show him his new computer, Grumpy Pod growled at him and said, "I'm not interested." When Healthy Pod asked Grumpy Pod to come for a walk, Grumpy Pod snarled at him and said, "Oh, go away, I hate walks." All the pods in Podville left him alone. Poor old Grumpy Pod. He would have lunch by himself. He would water the plants in his garden all by himself. He would watch TV by himself. He was really a very lonely pod. But there was one pod who saw Grumpy Pod's loneliness, and that was Loving Pod. You see, Loving Pod loved everyone. She was sweet and friendly and kind. "I must truly help Grumpy Pod make friends," she said to herself. Loving Pod had an idea. Grumpy Pod needs a pet to cheer him up, she thought. So off she went to the Podville Pet Shelter to get a pet for Grumpy Pod. The Podville Pet Shelter had kittens and puppies and goldfish. Loving Pod looked at them all. Finally, she chose a sweet little brown puppy. The next morning, Grumpy Pod had just finished his breakfast when there was a knock on the door. He opened the door, but there was no one there. Then, to his surprise, he saw a basket on the ground. And what do you think there was in the basket? Yes, the sweet little puppy. "Whose puppy is this?" said Grumpy Pod grumpily. The puppy jumped up and wagged his tail. He tried to lick Grumpy Pod. He rolled over and waved his legs in the air. He looked so funny that Grumpy Pod laughed and laughed and laughed. He never felt so happy in his life. The little puppy would sit by Grumpy Pod's feet while he read the paper. He would curl up next to him while watching TV. Grumpy Pod began to like having him around. Grumpy Pod named the puppy Brownie Pod. He had such a good time with Brownie Pod that he forgot to be grumpy. He made friends with the other pods. Soon he wasn't lonely anymore. "Why, Grumpy Pod, we will have to change your name soon," said Loving Pod. And instead of being grumpy, Grumpy Pod just smiled at Loving Pod. "You must get a pet, Loving Pod. It's fun," he said. Loving Pod just smiled to herself. No one knew her secret that it was she who had given Grumpy Pod the puppy and made him so happy. Thank you.